Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. Tonight we're going to spend some time with the friendly folks from the Bronx Chamber of Commerce and their free program, _free, the Small Business Resource Network, also known as SBRN. While it's been well established that the Bronx's small businesses are really what drives the economic outlook in Bronx neighborhoods, people who own small businesses in the Bronx understand that running their operations can be a lonely place. The challenges are enormous with product and inventory, the 24/7 effort to develop a consistent and profitable customer base, the changing dynamics of the digital and social media age, not to mention the taxes and other regulations that can, frankly, be downright scary. So tonight we'll take a look at the Bronx Chamber's Small Business Resource Network and the one-on-one support it provides to energize not only the small business community, but the entire Bronx economic picture. Please join me in welcoming the president of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, my longtime friend, Lisa Sorin. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Great seeing you.
And the director of small business outreach, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. It is Darry Saldana. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having us.
Lisa, let's just get started with you and get it. We haven't had you on the show in a while. Let's get an overview of what's going on. What is it about small businesses that energize the economy of the Bronx?
That is the Bronx. I mean, at the end of the day.
Okay, there you go.
That is the Bronx.
That's all we need. Good night.
The small businesses really make up the fabric of what the borough is. If you're looking at numbers, it's probably about 85–90% of all businesses in the Bronx are made up of micro or medium businesses, under 20 employees. And that is a true fabric. As much as we see all these large regional and big companies, it's the small commercial quarters.
And we welcome them here. We want them to
100%.
spend their money here and help drive the economy. Go ahead.
Without a doubt. But I find like they support what the small businesses are. And at the end of the day, residents look to their small businesses in their own corridors to do their local shopping. And our job is to make sure that those small businesses not only survive, but really thrive. And all the focus is right now in the Bronx. So it's our opportunity to take our businesses to the next level.
It has been said many times by many of the Bronx leaders that we are really a borough of neighborhoods, of 62 neighborhoods. This would fit right in because when you wake up in the morning, you don't think, what big store can I go to? You go down the block to do some grocery shopping or pick up what you need or see your friends over at the deli. This is what really drives the Bronx, isn't it?
100%. And when you say 62 neighborhoods, you're looking at over 100 different commercial corridors within those 62. And it's our job to make sure that those continue to survive. They've seen some massive challenges, but we're also on the uplift of where the Bronx is now going. So it's our time to really take it to the next level, and that's what the Chamber's trying to do.
We have, kind of marking lines, before the pandemic, and after the pandemic. The situation for small businesses has changed through kind of that roller coaster, or maybe you can give us a little before and after, if you would.
So before, it was very, I think, static. It was the do business normally after so many years. I think COVID was fearful for the Bronx. When you see all the grants and things that were available, the Bronx was the least one receiving all these financial assistance, which is really
annoying. Excuse me. It's really annoying.
That's
yes.
an understatement.
Yes.
And that's really where the Small Business Resource Network came from, right? Because there was a need there, the lack of information that was available to our businesses. And then we stepped it up with partners like the Yankees and free resources like attorneys. And so we went door to door looking for where we can assist, handing out PPE products. Then we started having that uplift because with that challenge came technology and new ways of doing business. You were forced to look at your business and how you can change it. And that brought on different ways to use the internet to sell your products.
And all these things we're going to review with
100%.
Darry in just a moment. Last question before we bring him in. I listed challenges, which I'm assuming you agree with, what was on that list. Anything not mentioned or other things on your mind that small businesses need to address, or did we cover it all there?
I think you covered most of it, but I want to say that I think the involvement within the Bronx Chamber allows the businesses to access resources that they may not get, and that's everything from meeting other local businesses in the Bronx to larger corporations to smaller businesses, and then there are the resources that are provided from city agencies that we get to tell them about versus them having to do the research on the website.
This is a nice segue to our friend Darry. Because the whole notion of information, let's start there. What are the kinds of things that small business owners and proprietors tell you about what they need and what they don't know that you can help them with?
So in my travels of working the entirety of the Bronx, I think the most common need is access to capital. Through our many different resources at the Chamber, we're able to really hone in on the business and see what is it that we can curate for them in order for them to get access to it, right? Two of the things that
Let's just stay with that for a second because it's such a vital piece.
Sure.
So it comes in loans, it comes in grants, and are they readily available? Does the Bronx, we know the history of the Bronx gets stigmatized. Oh no, we're not going to help those people. You know, we've been down this road for generations. Are all those things, just tell me about how you deal with the fact that they do need access to capital.
So we work with the business, right? We try to find what's the best way for them to access it. For example, if it's something like a grant, typically if it is ready, it's very competitive, right? Not only are you competing with your neighbor within the Bronx, you're competing with the entirety of the city, right? And in some cases, nationally. The other option that we go down is loans. I'm lucky to say that we've partnered with several different banks and CDFIs to give them access to that money as soon as possible. And
Helps to have partners.
yes, absolutely. You know, like my Felicity likes to say, play nice in the sandbox, you know, and with that, we're able to really, you know, cultivate relationships with other organizations and especially loan companies that are able to give that money to the businesses in a timely fashion.
We should mention, and get me if I'm wrong, SBRN is really a 5-borough activity.
Correct.
So it's not only that the Bronx has been singled out, but we're, of course, focusing on the Bronx's small business resource network. Talk about the one-on-one approach. This was something that I know that you highlight.
Yeah.
Hello, Darry at the door? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so I think it's good to humanize the relationship, right?
If you don't, it doesn't work in the Bronx. I have learned that after many years of sitting at this desk.
It's good that when a business owner sees someone that looks like them, you understand they're able to be open and have an open conversation. So within that, while, you know, I'm getting to know their needs, you know, I'm learning about them, right? Oftentimes I become a therapist on the spot and they want to know, they want to, you know, they want someone to hear what they're going through, right? And through that, I'm able to assess to see how I could better suit their needs, right? So for example, if I go into a business and they're telling me, hey, you know, I'm behind in rent, right? I want to know what led you to that. Was it something due to the pandemic, you know, which was looming
And you
over
never
everyone's head?
recovered from that.
You understand? Or was it post? You know, did it happen beforehand? What
Or was there an incident of some sort, something in the neighborhood? Maybe all of a sudden they put up scaffolding in front of you. I mean, we've had that in a number of places. The scaffolding goes up and all of a sudden people forget that they're there.
So, you know, in conversation of just really getting to know the business owner, having that intimate relationship, I'm able to really hone in on the specific needs of that business. So, you know, if a business says, hey, you know, I really like what you're saying. What can I do to go to the next step? Right there on the spot. We set up an appointment. You know, I like to make sure that I'm all ready with everything that I need just to make sure that
You got the right guy, Lisa. Okay.
they're getting the help as soon as possible, right? Oftentimes what happens is if we leave for example, an email address and I come back and I call them and say, hey, what's going on? They haven't had a chance to because I'm running a business. And that's fair. right? But if I'm there ready to serve you and we have the time, those are the successes.
You know, I said it half jokingly, this is what people in the Bronx like. But yes, people really in the Bronx especially, they're tired of hearing it from downtown. They're tired of getting it on the internet. But if they get a human being to come in. Now, I want to put some numbers up, which in a way makes me challenge what you're saying. But let's put some numbers up. The Small Business Resource Network in the Bronx, 9,000 businesses reached by SBRN in the Bronx. That's the outreach. 2,400 small businesses served since October 2020. Let's just go through this, and then I'm going to ask you about it. 75% of businesses served are minority, women, business-owned, and 92%, which is a huge number, are located in low, middle-income zip codes. You know, I say this all the time in the show. When we put numbers up, 2,400, okay, 2,400, you got, you know, 1.5 million people in the Bronx. I want you to count on your fingers up to 2,400. That's a lot of people. You knock on all those doors. I don't know how else to ask it. Or do you work with others? Do you have a staff?
So,
I mean, how does it work?
I'm privileged to say I have a phenomenal team.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear.
You honestly can't do it alone. But in that, we're able to really, again, divide and conquer, right? I've been able to travel the entirety of the Bronx and really go door to door to each one of the businesses, you know, letting them know the services we provide and really having an outreach that impacts them in a good way, right? Our team's small but mighty. You know, the Bronx is always the last in everything, but I would like to say that I believe we're the first in a lot of things, right? And being able
You're correct about that. You're not.
You know?
You're preaching to the choir on that.
You know, and again, going back to the team, is just us being able to rely on each other and all, you know, be a part of the Bronx and really come from the Bronx is what helps, you know, to give you those kind of numbers.
Lisa, how do you know it works? Is it too soon since, you know, I don't know what year you started with the SBRN? Is it too soon to really assess whether it's working, or are there indications? And then what indicators would you use to say, oh, yeah, we're doing a good job?
Oh, that's a big one, but I will say this.
That's why I'm
How
here.
do we know? It's all in the communication with the businesses. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at holistically all 5 boroughs and you're talking 13, 14, 15,000 businesses that have been touched, the communication, the fact that they open the door to our team, the fact that they'll call or say, I was able to get this loan, or I was able to access a contract, or they continuously call back for more resources, that speaks volumes. And then you have the added where they're like, if this is what you offer, can we become a chamber member?
And then, of course,
added to, then we add the additional services.
Right.
So it all really is a layered effect of success for these businesses. And that's the way we target. There's emails, and the amount of information we're able to provide them, they also communicate with us, which is, it's, to your point, very familiar.
One of the things that we have talked about, actually, we did a show on bids several weeks ago, but this is corridors that do not have a bid. Is that what
correct.
I'm understanding?
It is, although we do partner with bids. You know, I'm a
Of
former
course.
bid director, and I absolutely love bids.
I was there the day you got the job, as you recall.
That's correct. That's correct. But yes, the goal is to give a voice to the corridors that don't have one. When you have a bid, you have an executive director who's advocating for you at all times.
And a lot of the questions he's answering are what the bid handles.
100%.
So you don't
And then
duplicate.
he's also the face, or the team is the face for agencies. The bureaucratic envelope, or the
Okay.
world in which we have in New York City, makes it really difficult. To Darry's point, when you're running a business, you don't have time to research, to look, to go on to. And so by having a human person, somebody coming to you and providing you verbally these information, and yes, we will provide, because our relationship with the city agencies are strong. Our big partner is the Small Business Services. SBS is a partner to us on every level. And what we're doing is...
That's Small Business Services. For people who
correct.
don't know.
And so we are, in addition to complementing the services, they have a bucket of resources. We add to that bucket and also share it out. So, you know, it's a blessing for all the businesses in the Bronx because they're getting the best of all worlds.
You know, I'm going to ask you about what types of businesses, and I just want to establish the reason that BronxNet, and we do this on this program and all our programs, is because there are opportunities that people should know about, and in this case, small business owners should know about. We have just a list of what types of businesses have been involved, and this doesn't cover 100%, but there's restaurants, food and beverage are 30% that participate, health and wellness, beauty are 14%, shopping, retail, clothing 14%, businesses and professional services 7%, arts, media, and entertainment is 5%. Darry, what's not there that you also work with? I mean, as I understand, there's all different. There's lawyers and others.
So
talk about that.
There's a full spectrum, right? We have health and wellness. We have entrepreneurs.
That was one of the things on my list to ask you about.
I don't want to keep bringing the pandemic, right? But the pandemic did bring a lot of things to light. Businesses were opening up. You know, people wanted to start their own business because they didn't know how to make money outside of what the government was trying to provide for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that I would say that's an accurate assessment of the businesses that we help. Now, to that point, with the different health and wellnesses, I could bring up to one to mind. There was a businesswoman that she wanted to do health and wellness and yoga, right? And, you know, gyms were closed. So we was able to assist her with an e-commerce website. So that way she can still bring that level of exercise, you know, to people's homes without them having to go to the gym, you know. So although the pandemic not a good thing I want to talk about all the time, I think it did birth a lot of, you know, new business.
The entrepreneurship thing is very interesting. Is it something you recommend? Is it difficult? Or now because of things like the SBRN, opportunities are there? Just what's it like? Because there are many people, the Bronx people are so creative and, you know, so innovative. I always say we invented everything. Is this a good time to do it? Is it a difficult time to do it? How do you
So I
view
believe it's
that?
always a good time to start a business. You know, I think what needs to be addressed is how to do that business, right? How to properly start that business, and that's where I come in. You know, I want to make sure that businesses, the emerging ones or the entrepreneurs, they're starting in a proper way, right? Oftentimes, people are up at 2 o'clock at night, don't know what to do with their time. They go, oh, I want to start a t-shirt company, right? And how do you do that, right? What would be the best ways to start that?
The answer is you pick up the phone, you call the Bronx Chamber, you ask for Darry, and he can start to work.
And I'd like to add something to that,
Please
if you
do.
don't mind.
Yeah.
Post-pandemic, the Bronx saw the largest amount of business licenses.
Really?
Post-pandemic
Fascinating.
entrepreneurship in our borough, which speaks volumes to the fact that, to your point, there were so many creative individuals doing work right out of their homes or sharing, and here it is, opening the doors. The pandemic, unfortunately, opened the door to the next step in their lives, which is incredible.
I have to tell you, it really excites me because obviously I've been doing this for a long time, but that's what I know about Bronx people. They don't want to hear about it. We're tired of waiting for somebody else.
That's
and people
right.
say, you know what, I've always wanted to do this. Now is my opportunity to do it.
100%.
I want to talk about the MWBE certification. Let's just talk about who qualifies, how do they qualify, and what does that help them potentially get?
So businesses that are minorities, so that's brown and black Hispanics, black African Americans, women that own 51% of their business. And that's really who it's geared to, is to give them leverage to be able to compete with the other businesses, to have access to the same pools of money with the city, right? Historically, construction companies, you know, they're the ones that have the full hold on it, right? With MWB certification, if you are a brown or black business owner or female business owner, you're able to have the same access to those contracts. right? We have
And so you get certified, and then how does that process work so you can get some of the opportunities?
So I want to say that we have one of the star players on our team, Chanel Perez. I would be remiss if I didn't mention her. She actually works with the business from beginning to end to get that certification. During that certification process, she's also educating them in how to manage what we call passport. And that's really a way for you to bring your business to light and bring exposure, right? And what the city then does is they look on this list that's been curated through the certification process and pinpoint the businesses who are minority owned. And because of someone like Chanel Perez, and I would have to say that she's on our team and people have access
Incredible.
to her. They themselves.
That's how they can.
Exactly.
I have to ask you this, Lisa, since you're the president of the chamber. What we just heard is language I hear all the time in the Bronx. The other morning here on Open, we had somebody from the Eagle Academy talking about literally their diversity and inclusion programs. These are not things that are resonating in Washington, to say the least. Is there some concern, or because this is city-run, because this is Bronx-run, we just continue on? Because this has been part of our vernacular in the Bronx for decades, and all of a sudden to wipe it out or something, I just can't even conceive it. What's your thought about that?
I honestly, my personal thought on that one is the fact that it does not impact us here in the Bronx. One is, at the federal level, they make their decisions. The Bronx is a unique, dynamic, diversified community. Using the words DEI.
I'm trying not to smile too wide because we are.
We are the
are.
definition of that, so you can't eliminate it. It just doesn't exist. If anything, we empower it by the work that we do.
I got to ask you about the open and online program. So now, and I mentioned at the top of the show about the new opportunities in digital and social media. Older people who've had businesses for a while, all of a sudden they did well, but now all of a sudden they're not on Instagram, they're not doing all these other things. How does the open and online program work?
So to be honest, it's one of my favorite programs.
Oh, yeah? Sorry, I didn't put it at the top of the show.
It's one of my favorite programs because now it gives businesses an opportunity to really compete, on a scale which they wouldn't normally have someone walk to their storefront. E-commerce, right, is giving businesses access to customers that they wouldn't normally see, right? So let's say, for example, going back to the T-shirt example I gave at the top, right? I have T-shirts, nobody's seen them. Instagram isn't working, right? How do I get that across? A website literally helps you get that visibility for your business.
And you teach how to do it and help them make the contacts. Of course, there's a lot is involved.
Yeah, so open and online, we do have a team. They teach the process. They teach the business how to run the website, what would best benefit them. How to drive foot traffic to the site. So it really is a teaching component to it, outside of you just getting up a website. There really is no goal of giving you something and telling you, hey, just do it, right? We have to educate, to make sure that you're utilizing the best you can.
The information piece is something you mentioned right at the outset, and that's obviously certainly when it comes to digital and social media, that has to happen. I also want to ask you, because people saw, just using this as an example, the fire on Jerome and Burnside Avenue, which really, for that part of the Bronx, it's incredibly devastating. These are very popular businesses, et cetera, et cetera. At what point can you assist? Now, we realize, getting them back up to speed is a whole insurance in the city and everything else. But at what point can you intercede there to help those businesses really reclaim where they were?
So if it's a fire or something that directly impacts them, we obviously work with our outside organization and city agencies who have a bigger impact on that scale. But for us, once the business is back up and running, or they're trying to get the next step, we just try to connect with their insurance companies to see if that's maybe something that affected them. If they have or don't have, we try to see.
And then maybe even advise in the future, maybe it's something to consider.
Exactly. And then to that point, we do advisory, right? We want to make sure that if the fire impacted them, what's the next step for them to come back, right? In some cases, you just don't want to go, this was working before, let's continue, right? Sometimes you have to make a pivot. So something like the website development is a way for you to bring back, your business while you get the repairs done and while you do all the other extra stuff.
I have been in publicity and promotions for many years. There's so many different ways you can do it, whether you have a website, whether you're giving out flyers. I mean, sometimes that's effective. Of course, sometimes you can give out flyers and nothing turns out. But having you and your team to consult with and say, well, are we doing this right? I think it's just incredibly valuable. Before we run out of time, Lisa, what's next? What do you need? What do we want to continue to do? Just give us the picture of the next step after we know we already have this.
Well, I think it's a matter of reaching out, right? This is a part of the overall what the Bronx Chamber does, and that is about reaching out, educating. We want to be able to provide education on financial needs, on marketing needs. We want to introduce new technologies. How do you use them? How do you educate people on AI and moving forward? We want to advocate businesses. You have 27,000 plus businesses in the Bronx who don't understand how the city, how the state works. We want to be that voice for them. And so what we say is reach out, because you have an opportunity to network, to have a voice, and to grow your business, and that's our job, to help you along that path.
We've been putting the BronxChamber.org website on the screen through the show. Darry will give you the last words. You got about 30 seconds. What's the message to small business owners?
I love to say ACE. We advocate for businesses. We connect businesses to one another. Networking is a huge part of owning a business. What I don't know, you may know. And then lastly, educate. Lisa says something that's important to me is educating businesses. I want to pivot from financial literacy to financial mastery, giving our business owners an opportunity to really learn what it means to own a business and to educate everyone in a way that they understand the way we would understand things.
I have been rarely as energized about the Bronx on other programs we've done as I am on this one. Thank you so much, Lisa Sorin and Darry Saldana. And we're going to thank everybody. Our producer today, Yorelis Encarnacion, did a great job. She filled in for Rebecca Hemick. Director is Will Guzman. And Yorelis also handled graphics. Ian Neville is on audio. The editor, Yessi Diaz. We got the cast of thousands around us here in the studio. And of course, you too. It's all about the people of the Bronx and the businesses in the Bronx. So if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be here next week. Good night.